Welcome back, everybody. We're going to continue the coverage here from LVT Halo as we take a look at some of the pool play matches. Right now, Sentinels placed just second weeks ago at Salt Lake City against this number 3 team out of EU, Impact team.
Yeah, and what I'm looking forward to see, Magic, is which of these top NA teams still play at a high level and don't necessarily play down to the level of some of these other squads. We know that the disparity between Sentinels and Impact is far and wide. I want to see that result. I'm not necessarily looking for 100-0 from Sentinels, but after a second place finish at the SSG Invitational, I feel like this should be a 3-0 for Sentinels. We should see them start to build that case for why they should be back in the Grand Finals this weekend.
Yeah, even looking at people's predictions from this weekend, a lot of people have Sentinels in the top 3 at least. And I'm going to do a spicy take and say Sentinels could go all the way to, I'm going to say second. I'm going to give them a second place in this tournament. But regardless of which way you look at it, one of the favorites, and they do need to dominate in that pool play.
Yeah, I just love the composition of this roster. I feel like everyone can just be themselves. And I think in Halo, that's really one of the keys, is to embrace your personality, embrace the way you like to play Halo, and try to make it work and fit in with 3 other people on the team. And for Sparty, he's the leader. He's the unquestioned passion, energy that gets derived from this squad. Then you got Falcated and bubu dubu.
Yes.
Roommates. What better chemistry can you have than with your roommate? I don't know, unless they like leave the cereal bowl out and maybe don't make their bed or whatever it is, and find a problem at home. But for Falcated and bubu dubu, they're best friends. They go on runs together. They work on their physical fitness together. They work on their Halo gameplay together. They are, in every sense, a duo. And then who's rounding out the squad? It's LethuL, a top 5, top 2, 3. You could argue he's anywhere in that mix. Player of all time. So it's not a surprise why people think Sentinels could go all the way to the top again.
Yeah, we've certainly seen a big uptick from Sentinels. They might have the highest trajectory, right? Their growth path from the season. Sentinels have almost been unbeaten. Quadrant have to be up in that conversation as well, but Sentinels definitely a team that people are interested in. Was it a one-off for them at Salt Lake City? Did they have one good tournament? I would argue no. I would argue that they're going to come back even stronger here at Fort Worth.
Yeah, I think we could definitely see that again. I think the second place finish wasn't necessarily surprising, excuse me, for me at least, for Sentinels and the likes of bubu dubu, because I recall last year with G1, bubu dubu comes over and a previous open bracket team, top 12, top 16 team, now gets second place in the grand finals of the NA Super. That was bubu dubu's first tournament. So we know that bubu dubu comes over to his team, instantly improves and elevates them. Can they stick? Can they sustain that level? That's the big question for them this weekend. Can they get back to the grand finals?
Well, Sentinels do take round number 1 of Oddball, and since this is pool play, it's all going to be best of 5s. On the side of Impact team, we have Mose, Phlux, Sxptiq, and Respect. And one thing that I had heard, I actually learned this from Tools, is that Sxptiq is playing on a mouse and keyboard. So something to shout out that we're seeing multiple 2 players now in pool play, with Scoopmeister out of ANZ and also Sxptiq on the mouse and keyboard input.
Yeah, and did you called it out the perfect time, Magic. Did you see how quickly Sxptiq turned on his opponent at the A door of the top side of elevator? It was instantaneous. And I've been watching a couple Summit 1G streams in the last week. The things you can do on mouse and keyboard are just impossible on controller. So I'm not saying we get to a 50-50 point in the HCS where it's 50% controller, 50% MNK, but let's start.
Maybe like 80-20 would be kind of fun to see. Right now, it's what, 2 players out of how many? 48.
4 times 16. That's math I can't do in my head quickly, but
no, 4 times 12.
12. So yeah, 48. So 2 out of 48.
Yeah, it's like 2%.
It's
right?
working its way up there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I think even for the controller purist and those who have been on controller like myself for 20+ years, I like seeing MNK gameplay. I like seeing people switch it up. I like seeing new things in the mix, and I am so excited for what kind of content we could get out of these competitions if we saw more players on mouse and keyboard, as Sxptiq picks up the oddball and the WASD.
It's actually about 5% of the open bracket players. You said we don't have to do the math, but my brain's already trying to do the math. So about 5% with Scoopmeister and Sxptiq rocking the M&K. But something to look out for. Mose gets a nice double kill. 20 bomb here from Mose.
I actually love having the MNK player hold oddball, because you're almost like a quarterback in the sense that you're trying to gather intel, and who better than the guy that can scan across the entire map in a nanosecond than Sxptiq. So interesting to note that the mouse and keyboard player the main oddball holder as well for Impact, as Sxptiq has locked down 35 seconds.
Mose has only a few seconds left on this active camo. 20-10 is Mose, and we were giving the call for Sentinels. They need to dominate this series, and I'm not seeing it. Impact team now in round number 2, leading 46-11. A great takedown there from Phlux, but the team wipe does come through. Sentinels are going to take over, but they have some ground to make up.
Yeah, tough scenes there for Impact. Thought they might have had a chance to toss that oddball out towards the reset. Instead, it stays back gold. That's going to give Sentinels an extra 10 seconds minimum as they look to get back in this game. But yeah, you're right, Magic. When we came on board with this series, it was 56-36, a close game. Sentinels in the lead. Now we have just about the same thing, but it's Impact in the lead. So this is very surprising considering what we were expecting from this Sentinels roster. But again, it's very early.
I understand what you're saying, surprising, and I'm going to add a word to that. I'm going to say even concerning. Sentinels are the number 2 seed overall in this tournament, and game number 1 for them is potentially going to a round 3. They need to lock this in right now as they're about to take back that lead.
43-46. This game could not be any closer as 3 go down for Sentinels. Falcated, the last member alive on his team. Let's get an eye on where he is. A huge last player alive. Slay on Respect. As that's going to stop Impact from having a full setup over here at Gold. Going to make it a lot easier for Sentinels to break through, but not until Mose. Perfect 4 shots on LethuL, but LethuL gets the trade.
It required a perfect 4-shot for Mose to come out with a kill there because he was in a 1v2. So the fact that he did get the trade is an impressive feat in and of itself. And this reset is going to be oh so crucial because they're just about both teams halfway in this round on points. 2:30 still on the clock. So we're definitely looking at a round that's more likely to go to points than it is to time. And camo now on the side of Sentinels. LethuL is going to get burned out with that perfect grenade from Sxptiq, and that's it for camo.
Great recognition there from Impact team. They seem to have the camo goggles on as they picked out LethuL instantaneously. LethuL not the first option for camo control on this Sentinels roster, and Impact take advantage of it and now build back onto that 20-second lead. This is impressive from the 3rd seeded EU team in pools.
We always look at Quadrant as being the team to represent international squads, but Impact are making themselves a part of the conversation. Imagine if they come out with a game 1 upset on Sentinels, question mark? What a crazy play. Respect tries to rotate the ball, and as he's taken down, he does leave that ball out in the bottom mid, out in the open, and you can already see the crossfire from Mose because of that rotation.
Whoa.
What a perfect grenade, the Hail Mary, as Mose connects and makes it a double.
Oh, Mose is in the flow state right now. He lands the Hail Mary grenade, has LethuL top A for a potential triple. He doesn't care about the medal. He just wants to make sure 3 go down for Sentinels, as they do in Impact. Now just 30 seconds away from tying up game 1.
On board now with Respect, and you can see that all 4 players from Impact have significant objective time. You know, 20 to 39 seconds beautiful. Is the spread, so really sharing the load of responsibility when it comes to the oddball, and 3 go down for Sentinels. This round is all but over.
This could be the round right here. A 4th goes down, it's Falcated, and I do believe if Respectful just holds his ground, holds on to that oddball, they should have this round. 20 seconds to go.
They need to win 1 more round of slays. They are too far away on points to lock it in off of that team wipe. They need to win 1 more round of slays, and that's going to be a round number 3 on your screen, but 2 go down for Impact. The rotation as Sparty now picks up camo, but look at Mose burned it out instantly.
Wow, and I thought in a situation like that, it would be a massive numbers advantage for Sentinels, but no, there's only 1 down for Sentinels, 2 down for Impact team, so despite being down in numbers, Impact make a huge positive play.
Sentinels down 30 points, but they're climbing back. I thought that oddball was out of reach of the grapple, but bubu found a way to snag that objective, tosses it to a teammate so he can go to work with the shock rifle.
Assist are okay. Sparty's going to clean that up as dubu gets the green light to push into blue. Players are weak. He's looking for the cleanup, and he's able to get 1. Mose with the headshot, trying to retain control of a shock rifle that still has a full clip +1 left in it.
5 points between the 2 teams. The first break kill, 2 go down for each side. On board now with LethuL. He's across the map. He's trying to maintain control of top gold, but he gets traded out. Impact team are in position to grab the oddball, a minute on the clock, and Sentinels are quickly swarming in.
Oh, this looks like a hill hold right now on the A side, the strong side, but Falcated gets the double kill, evaporates the elevator control, and that's 4 down for Impact team. Now Sentinels are in a situation where this could be the final hold.
They have to desperate off of spawn because there's only 10 seconds now between Sentinels and taking game number 1. Impact team have fought so hard throughout this match to have it be just out of reach. Falcated hits the perfect shock rifle play. We see it in the kill feed. Spartan holding on to the objective, and that's it. Sentinels might have had me concerned, but they found the ice factor when it counted.
LethuL. When we were looking at a potential 1-1 tie, LethuL was, I believe, 10 and 19 with 0 seconds of ball time. He went from -9 to, I believe, -4, so he cut that in half, doubled his slaying prowess at the end game, and he got all 30 of his seconds in that time as well. So it was LethuL stepping up in the end game, stepping up when Sentinels need it most. It looked a little too close for comfort, I would argue, but the tried and true, the GOAT, finds a way to get it done, gives his team that 1-0 lead.
The ice factor from Sentinels, if they can carry that through this weekend, it's going to serve them well. But we have to talk about Impact Team because, you know, we say third team out of EU, third seed in their pool. Complexity between Sentinels and Team Impact here in that second spot of Pool B. And they came out with more fight than maybe we anticipated. They're warmed up and ready to go. They could upset game number 2, especially looking at an Aquarius Slayer on the way.
Yeah, I think absolutely. We saw enough slaying prowess there from that Impact team to where they could be a viable contender here in game 2. But I think with the strength of Sentinels, with this roster, with this second place finish, this should be a 3-0. So I'm not necessarily expecting this Impact team to come out and win game 2, be that underdog upsetter in game 2, but I think we're going to have a close one again, and I'm pleasantly surprised with how close that first game was. So
I didn't quite calculate from the stats, but Impact were in the lead for slays in that round 2. They might have even ended the game with more slays than Sentinels did. So I think it does speak a little bit to, surprisingly, to me, the objective efficiency of Sentinels to be able to lock down that game with fewer slays. But when you're heading into a game 2 Slayer, Impact team don't need to change anything. They just need to be consistent with what we saw from game 1.
Yeah, it was almost like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, in that when Impact had that chance to get the final 20 seconds, they needed one more team wipe. They didn't get it. Sentinels found themselves in the exact same spot, needing one team wipe. Keep an eye on. They got it. They didn't get a full team wipe, but I believe it was numbers advantage. They got 3 down, found a way to comfortably get that oddball control at the top of A, that lockdown location. So I think that was another important note to make. That game was way closer than I think we even give it credit for.
Sentinels came out with the ice. Can we see in game number 2 some of that ice from Team Impact to tie up the series? And this best of 5, it feels like it comes down to this game. Impact were so close to forcing a round 3. If they can come out with a hot start, they could upset some things.
Mose, the top performer for Impact Team in that game 1, able to accumulate the most damage on his team. Going to be keeping an eye on him to see if he can bring this Impact Team back in this series.
Early lead here from Sentinels on board with LethuL in that heat wave. 2 players around the corner make it a third here as he now rotates to top P, and he looks left. The player was to his right. They take advantage, take him down, but not before Sentinels extend that lead to 5.
Yeah, great start here for Sentinels. Now we're starting to see them flex that second seed muscle that we are now expecting of this roster, and what a time to have a team like Sentinels get into the top 3. We had a wild card conversation going into Worlds last year where it felt like anybody in the top 6 or 8 could possibly win it all, and I think we're getting right back to that spot, especially with the likes of Quadrant. Who knows where Native Red can finish? Do they have another miraculous lower round run like they did at Worlds last year? There's still so many questions to be determined.
And here's the thing to me, Mikowski. Early in the season, we talked about the big 3 over and over and over. Well, we can't talk about the big 3 anymore. First it was Quadrant that shook things up, and now it's Sentinels. Maybe Native Red is next up because those top 6 now are looking pretty decisive. And remember, from this weekend's tournament, it's more than just an open. It's more than just a major. This is like playoffs.
This is
for
the
Worlds.
playoff.
Top 8. Let's lock in those seeds for Worlds just 6 weeks away.
Yeah, let's reset and set the stage, if you will. These are the playoffs. This is it. Outside of 16 teams, everyone else's season ends this weekend. Everybody else goes home. Only 16 can go to Seattle, and that's what we're vying for this weekend. A top 8 placement will lock in that trip to Seattle. We know Sentinels is primed for something like that.
From the number of teams here this weekend, some of them are done with HCS Season 2 this
now,
weekend.
right
this
here.
Is it. Everything on the line for these teams, as the 6-point lead for Sentinels is going to hold. Impact team still in arm's reach, but they need to break that to just one team wipe before this gets out of hand.
Bubu Dubu showing that Commando nerf wasn't too strong as he takes down one with the Commando. And you can really see this Sentinels roster trying to time the pinch. They've got Bubu and Sparty on the right, LethuL and Falcated on the left. Falcated with the opening break, takes down Phlux, and starts the pinch from Sentinels as they execute it extremely well. Nobody goes down for Sentinels, 3 go down for Impact team. Perfect play from Sentinels.
Oh, the opposite happened of what I was asking for from Impact. They needed to cut that to a 1-team wipe game, and now Sentinels extended it to nearly a 3-team wipe advantage. 24-12, doubling up the score. That perfect kill comes through from Sparty, currently sitting at 64.
This makes sense. It's early. It was game 1, right? Everyone's still warming up. They haven't even fully digested their orange juice or Wheaties yet, so expecting to see this Sentinels roster heat up throughout the weekend. But at the same time, Magic, it's important to start hot. It's important to set the tone early,
Yes.
and especially with a team that's so driven by energy, emotion, and passion like Sentinels. They need to 3-0. They need to start off hot and carry it throughout the weekend. That's how they got to top 2 at Salt Lake City.
I couldn't agree with you more, Mikowski. Sentinels being that emotionally driven team, I think what some people are worried about is that they could burn out, but I want them to start out strong and stay strong throughout the weekend. I think they have the endurance factor, even though they are an emotionally charged roster, that they can ride off of that wave for multiple days of this tournament.
Sxptiq goes down there, and I think the answer to that question, Magic, is in Bubu Dubu. And I'm not talking about the 9-0 game he's having right here.
Wait a second.
In game
wait,
2.
one away from that frenzy.
I'm talking about the intrinsics of Bubu Dubu. This guy had a chance to team with him last year. One of the most friendly, just awesome. Like, how could you not like Bubu Dubu? Like, the guy, he's a great guy, great teammate, great competitor. There is not enough good things you can say about Bubu Dubu, and he's that calm within the storm of energy and passion from the likes of Sparty. So, Bubu Dubu, I cannot say enough about what an important addition he's brought to the stat sheets, the things that you do see like damage and KD, and the intrinsics as well, the chemistry, the vibes.
All of those
So
coming together. Bubu Dubu might be one of the most underrated pro players because he's not always the one making the flashy plays, although he has his moments. But whenever Bubu Dubu moves rosters, he's always making that team better. And that's what he has done for Sentinels. I don't think that's even arguable that Bubu Dubu has made Sentinels better. He makes Sparty better. He makes LethuL better.
Yeah, you do it once with G1 and you get them straight to the top, and then you do it with Sentinels. Sentinels was in a little bit better spot than G1 was last year when they went from top 12 to top 2, but I think Sentinels was really only in that top 8 or so, so they're not much better than a top 12 team, and then bam, Bubu Dubu on land, able to get Sentinels to top 2. He is a big reason why they were able to accomplish that.
Early in the season, the rivalry was Sentinels versus Rebellion. Now, fast forward to now, Sentinels are the number 2 seed. Where's Rebellion? Open bracket. So that level of separation, I don't know if that, I think it speaks to 2 things. It speaks to the separation and the growth of Sentinel, but it also speaks to the level of competition that we've gotten to.
Yeah, I think Sentinels might have made some better roster change decisions too.
Yeah.
You could argue, and I think the results speak for themselves in that sense, as we have 3 more now, 2 more for Sentinels to secure that 2-0 lead. For a Sxptiq, though, the garlic butter out just yet. 29 kills, Impact in a position where they can stop this stake. You want to see that medal, right? You want to talk about building confidence. It's equally as important for a team that's losing. You want to earn those confidence kills, and that's what we just saw there from Impact as they avoid the Sxptiq, but go down to Sentinels 50-31.
50-31 is still a pretty decisive win, especially after how dicey Game 1 looked and the number of slays that we saw coming out from Mose specifically. It seemed like that loss in game number 1, even if it had gone to a round 3, I think that you would have seen more here from Impact. But the fact that they couldn't force a round 3 in oddball, it seems like it kind of carried through to game number 2, and they seemed a little bit deflated.
Yeah, and for Bubu Dubu to start out at 9-0, a lot of people, I think, don't have his skill profile matched. They think of Bubu Dubu almost as like a main slayer. Bubu Dubu's an X factor. He's almost like a glue that holds the team together. He's the guy that, when Catalyst was a thing, he would regularly go around the map, and he takes that same kind of philosophy to some of the other maps that don't have options like that to move around swiftly, freely, and almost a little unorthodoxly as well. Bubu Dubu, a guy that can keep other teams off guard, all the while Sparty is not missing his shots. And then you got the roommate Falcated and the GOAT LethuL. Like, I think Sentinels, top 2, they could win it all.
Ooh, okay. Sentinels are primed and ready. What we've seen so far is a 2-0 in this series, but can they place top 2 or even better, take an upset for the win? It could happen. We've seen them with some great gameplay, and if they can level up their game just the slightest bit, the top is so tight that even a 2% improvement is going to force that upset to happen. And I love what you're saying about bubu dubu. He's kind of the utility player. He's the player that does what needs to be done in the given moment. But talk to me a little bit about Falcated, because his name has been spoken more and more. Bubu dubu's consistency, his solid gameplay is something, but Falcated's growth factor also comes into play.
Yeah, Falcated is the kind of guy that I think Sparty is the main slayer, but you almost have, again, like a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, Falcated as another main slayer 2. This is a guy that in recent tournaments has snuck into the top 10 in performances like kill-death ratio, damage per minute. Falcated owns those spots in the top 10 as of recent, and he's only continuing to climb. So again, it's not necessarily as Falcated goes, the Sentinel rosters go, but you have a team in Sentinels that is on the up, and you have players individually who are on the up as well. When you have that, talk about a perfect storm, there's your perfect storm. When both things are firing on full cylinders, the team and the individual, that's when you have performances like what we've seen from Sentinels. So I don't want anyone to be surprised anymore for seeing Sentinels in the top 3 because, like I said earlier, they could win the whole thing.
It's been quite the journey for Sentinels. I think that their path from start to where we are now in HCS Season 2 is one of the most interesting and dynamic storylines of growth. But talk to me a little bit about Impact Team, right? We don't want to underestimate this team. Now, this is a different situation than what we usually see with a third team from EU locking in full play. And a lot of that is credit to Quadrant and their strong placements. Also, Navi there in the mix as well. But for Impact Team, what does this tournament mean for them?
I think for Impact Team, this is a representation of the growth of EU. Not only in the sense of the player base or in terms of viewership for tournaments in EU, but I'm talking about the skill set. The talent level is continuing to grow over on that side of the pond. Impact Team is a perfect example of it. I can't remember, Magic, the last time in the HCS that we had 3 EU teams in pool play. Impact is a glaring example of the growth, improvement, and rockstar potential that EU has. And I cannot say enough, especially with how rocky international competition has been in Halo. Let's just be honest, I'm not disparaging anybody, but the competition internationally hasn't been able to hold up to NA's best. But in EU, they can.
They're starting to show us what they're capable of. And I got to give a shout out to Europa Halo. I know they also have Outcasted is doing a watch party that's primarily focused on those EU teams over the weekend.
Awesome.
So they do have content creators, casters, production team that are doing everything that they can out of just their love for that community to provide coverage and eyes on these EU teams, as well as the LAN tournament coming up in November at Blackpool. So check out Europa Halo. They're doing big things, and I think that's part of why we see more EU here in pool play.
Yeah, one last note before we get into this game 3, and you kind of like rehashed my memory. Sentinels, remember, was on the brink of not making it to DreamHack Dallas. Sentinels was a organization that, as of just months ago, was questionable to make things like SSG Invitationals or DreamHack Dallas or back to pool play. So you hit it on the head, Magic. There has not been a more compelling and intriguing storyline this year than this Sentinels roster. Maybe you could argue Quadrant because of the history that they were able to make, but Quadrant's always been pretty good in that top 12, 8 or so area. They've never been a question as to whether or not they'd be out of LAN. Sentinels had those questions this very year.
Definitely looking forward to seeing what all the teams have to bring us over the weekend. Quadrant being another team. I would put them right up there with Sentinels as being one of the teams that have forced the most upsets and have been shaking things up at the top of HCS Season 2. Sentinels right now 2-0 in this series. And you've said this twice, I think now, Mikowski. They need this to be a 3-0. What are the repercussions if Sentinels can't lock this down in a dominant fashion?
It's mostly vibes and chemistry, because I think Sentinels knows they're gonna take this series as Sxptiq takes the face of Falcated. Nice no scope there. But I think this is just, it's about, you know when you have a heist, it's all about things going according to plan. This is a heist for Sentinels. They're looking to steal the trophy from the likes of SSG, FaZe, you could argue maybe even Quadrant. So I think Optic. So I think that's the mindset. Everything needs to go according to plan during this heist for Sentinels, and part of that is making sure you 3-0 teams like Impact.
Sentinels trying to put the Ocean's 11 strategies to work here, breaking into now. They broke into top 2. Can they break away with an even higher seed or even a victory under their belts? And what a time for them to potentially peak just before Worlds around the corner. Let's see what they can do here in this game number 3. On the high ground is Mose, but LethuL finds the shots. 2 go down though for Sentinels. Impact team holding on to the C side, and both teams with a little bit of objective time, but not secured yet.
Yeah, but it's more objective efficiency for Sentinels. Is unbelievable. Magic doing the math real quick. 6 slays, I think? 5, 6 slays in advantage for Impact team. That's not quite the 2 team wipes you need to maybe feel like you should have this first kill, but they don't even have the first half on the board. It's Sentinels instead, despite going numbers down again. 2 go down, 1 up for 1 go down for Impact. Impact this whole time, I feel like, has had an edge in numbers, but they're not converting it to points until now.
It's a little bit of deja vu from game number 1 because the same story was true. That Impact team had the slays and Sentinels had the oddball, and now it's translating again in the same way, this time with a King of the Hill. New map, new mode, but Sentinels, to me, would think of them as a team that would be a priority in the slaying games. Their objective play has really been some standout.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Impact, that's maybe why you look back at that Slayer and you're like, man, how did we lose 50-31 when we're out slaying them in the OBJs? Partially because I think that is, again, going according to plan for Sentinels. They're not here to stuff the stat sheet. Falcated, while he loves creeping into that top 10 category like he has been, wants to take the trophy, wants to take the championship over the credit that you get when you're a top performer, top player in those top 10 lists. So Sentinels really playing true Team Halo here as they go up.
It's tied on kills side to side with about 19 kills per team, but the hill was doubled time for Sentinels. Impact just made it barely past the halfway point. Now they're making an adjustment. They're getting that early time on the hill if Phlux can stay alive.
And here again is one of the reasons why bubu dubu's one of the best players in the world, sitting at 0 kills, almost 3 minutes on in regulation have gone by, and bubu dubu doesn't have a kill yet. But look. He's got the damage output. He's got the assist. So, bubu dubu is one of those guys that can hedge, right? If he can stop the bleeding. He's got the tourniquet on hand. So even if he doesn't have as many kills as you'd like, he's finding ways to impact the game in the assist category instead. Now he's making faces with the sniper. Headshot goes down on Mose. Bubu dubu is heating up.
One word strikes me for bubu dubu and the rest of Sentinels that is catching me a little bit off guard. It's their versatility. When it comes to objective play, they have the efficiency. When it comes to slaying, they have the slays. And bubu dubu, as we had mentioned before, doing whatever it takes to get the lead. Now, I want you to direct your attention to the scoreboard, not just because Sentinels are past the halfway point, but look at how much time has been burned. Hill number 1 spawning at top mid takes so much time to capture. And so if Sentinels can go up with a 2-0 lead, this is going to be desperate earlier on than expected for Impact.
Yeah, Hill number 1 like a hungry gentleman going into a all-you-can-eat buffet, looking to eat that clock as 3 minutes go off. It was about 2.5 at the time that first Hill gets scored, but you'll rarely see 4, even 3 is a surprise to see on the clock after 1 gets scored on Solitude. It's something about that top mid location that just offers so many angles to take damage from that really make it tough to score that first Hill.
Phlux in a 1v2 really does his best to come out with a trade there, but Sentinels still have the number, and they are trying to get that second capture, but with no urgency for them to get the hill time. As they get the round of slays, though, they are going to lock in that objective, and with a minute 40 on the clock, this is what I want to see from Sentinels. Do they play for another capture? I think they play for time.
I think they play for time here because the rule of thumb, usually give it about a minute of regulation clock to score a hill. Here you have Impact Team with a 1.5 minutes to get their first even on the board. We haven't seen enough from them in this game 3. I do think Sentinels continue to slay out. You might see them get in the hill, but it's simply to position for a kill like we see here for bubu dubu.
I don't know. I think bubu dubu would be a little greedy for objectives here. And I mean, right now, they kind of have the confidence to go alongside. Right there, a very significant shift as he hops off the objective, finds the kill onto Mose, and hey, he's happy when they're up in slays to just lock down bottom mid. Hard spot to stay alive, by the way, with high ground all around you, and bubu dubu now scampers away.
Yeah, maybe Sentinels working on their bottom mid hill strategies here as they continue to go for time. Don't necessarily need it to secure the win here in game 3 as We see Sxptiq land a headshot on bubu dubu with that mouse and keyboard, able to pull off another play that we would not see from some of the HCS's best on controller as he gets to top snipe quickly.
Wow.
Lands another no-scope and maybe could have pulled out the BR to finish off bubu dubu, who went down earlier to a headshot, but now look at bubu dubu picking that sniper right back up, leaving where he had just left off.
I gotta shout out Sxptiq, 15 and 9. We saw some crispy snipes coming out, and even though it's looking like Impact are about to go down to the series 0-3, it's not lack of individual performance.
No, that's such a great point, Magic. I like the alert or the awareness around mouse and keyboard has got to be on the rise right now. Think about what Sxptiq's doing here in this game, and it's not like he's statting or farming. I think he's still playing sound Halo, and he's got the most kills, most assists, least deaths. And then let's look on the other side. You think
he's identical to Spartan.
Maybe it's a second seed or maybe even a 3 seed. No, Impact is the 3 seed in their pool. They're going up against Sentinels, who is likely to potentially win this tournament. They have the 1 seed in their pool, and like you said, the mouse and keyboard player from EU, Sxptiq, playing like a seasoned veteran in Sparty, the same exact stats. That is unbelievable, and it shows that mouse and keyboard has limitless potential, just like the Sentinels roster.
Yeah, we're excited to have Active here on the team this weekend, and of course a big proponent for that mouse and keyboard conversation as 3 seconds are left on the clock. This is going to be the end of the series. Oh, Impact, a last-second desperate approach, but the clock working against them as Sentinels lock down the series.
bubu dubu finishing with 12 assists, and I didn't get a chance to glance at that. I think that was double the second best on his team. So, again, bubu dubu, you want to talk about a guy that almost like a lizard, a chameleon, can turn into anything his team needs. That's what bubu dubu is.
A 3-0 sweep is exactly what Sentinels were hoping for and maybe even needing to start off this tournament. It's a long road ahead of them, and for the side of Impact, it's not over yet. This was certainly odds stacked against them. Complexity is also in this pool, as well as waiting for which open bracket team is going to fill in that 4th slot. And on that note, we are going to head to a break. On the other side, we'll be taking another look at open bracket. Mikowski, anything you want to throw in here?
Loving the day so far. Love that we started off with open bracket. Again, just looking in the bottom left corner and seeing open bracket winners round 2, I haven't seen that since 05-06. So again, I want to give a huge thanks to 343, huge thanks to HCS for allowing us to do this. Eyes on the open bracket. It's, I think it's a tide raises all boats type of situation, and we're here for it. So a huge shout out to them and the community for supporting it.